Hello students, myself Hema Marwah is here again to interact with you for the second chapter in chemistry titled Physical and Chemical Changes in the book referred Essential ICSE Chemistry for Class 7. Hope you will upgrade your knowledge in chemistry through my video. Students, as you know, I am going to introduce you about physical and chemical changes. The first word clicked in our mind is what is a change. So here I am going to explain you what is a change in chemistry. Students, change in chemistry can be defined as a transition of state or condition of a thing to another. I repeat, change in chemistry can be defined as a transition of state or condition of a thing to another. Now, some important points which you have to note down. What are they? First, changes are an integral part of nature. Changes are an integral part of nature. You can see in the nature a number of changes takes place like ripening of fruit, growth of plants and animals. They are continuously taking place in nature. Second point to be noted, changes takes place every moment around us. Changes take place every moment around us. Now taking some example of changes. Some common example I am taking. First, digestion of food. Then ripening of fruit. Growth of plants. Growth of children and etc. Students, now we will discuss the types of changes. Changes are classified into various types depending on various factors. First category of classification I am taking is reversible and irreversible changes. Reversible and irreversible changes. So what are the definitions? A change is said to be reversible when opposite change can be brought about by reversing the condition. I repeat, a change is said to be reversible when the opposite change can be brought about by reversing the condition. Some example I will take for your better understanding. You see, ice melts on being heated and water freezes on being cooled. Thus the change of ice into water and that of water into ice are reversible. Same way, vaporization of water into water vapors and condensation of water vapor back into the water is also an example of reversible change. Or in other words, you can say all changes in state of matter are reversible. Now we will take the definition of irreversible change. A change is said to be irreversible when the opposite change cannot be brought about by reversing the conditions. I repeat, a change is said to be irreversible when the opposite change cannot be brought about by reversing the condition. For example, milk can be changed into curd, but curd cannot be changed back into milk. Hence, this change is irreversible. Same way, on being heated, sugar gets charred. Charred means it changes into black mass. And if you will cool the charred sugar, you cannot get back sugar in original crystal form. Thus, curdling of milk and charring of sugar are the example of irreversible changes. Now students, we will take the second type of classification, that is desirable and undesirable changes. Such changes which are useful to us and therefore desired are called desirable changes. For example, ripening of fruit, growth of plant, or growth of a child, etc. Such changes which are harmful to us. Why they are harmful? Because they can cause some damage to us. So such changes which are harmful to us and therefore undesirable. They are called undesirable changes. For example, volcanic eruption, spoiling of food, earthquake, etc. Students, now we will discuss physical and chemical changes. A change in which no new substances are formed and which can be reversed by reversing the conditions is called a physical change. I repeat, a change in which no new substances are formed and which can be reversed by reversing the conditions is called a physical change. Taking some example, change in state of matter, for example, change of ice into water and vice versa. These all are examples of physical changes. Definition of chemical change: a change in which new substances are formed and which cannot be reversed back by reversing the conditions is called a chemical change. I repeat, a change in which new substances are formed and which cannot be reversed by reversing the conditions is called a chemical change. For example, curdling of milk includes formation of curd, which is a new substance and cannot be reversed back. In other words, you cannot change curd back into the milk. Now in this PPT, I will take the examples of physical change. I have included few examples in this PPT which are given in our book. The glowing of a heater or a bulb. An electric heater or a bulb glows when electric current is passed through it, but glow vanishes when current is switched off. I repeat, an electric heater or a bulb glows when electric current is passed through it, but glow vanishes when current is switched off. Second example is of freezing of a liquid, and I am taking water as an example of a liquid. On being cooled to 0 degrees Celsius, water freezes to give ice. On being cooled to 0 degrees Celsius, water freezes to give ice. Ice melts back into water on heating. So this change is physical change because we have reversed the condition and we are getting the original substance. Third example which I am taking in this slide is sublimation. All of you have covered this sublimation in the class 6, but for your recall, I am writing the definition again. In sublimation, some solids directly form vapor without melting. When cooled, the vapors are directly changed into solid. So this change is also a physical change. Fourth example, dissolution of a substance in a liquid. There are some substances which are being dissolved easily in the water. What are they? Sugar, salt, glucose are some substances which can be dissolved in water. Hence, dissolution of a substance in a liquid is also an example of physical change. Students, continuing the example, I will take evaporation and drying of cloths in this PPT. But before, I would like to explain the definition of solute and solvent, as they are very important when we are discussing the dissolution of substances in a liquid. Such substances that dissolve are called solute. Such substances that dissolve are called solute, whereas the liquid in which these get dissolved is called solvent. For your better understanding, I would like to give you the example of lemonade. Nowadays summers are going on and we are enjoying the lemonade. So we are taking water, and in water we are mixing sugar crystals, some salt crystals and then lemon extract. So all these three substances, that is the sugar, salt and lemon extract, they are called solute, and the liquid which we are taking is water, that is called solvent. Now point to be noted, when a solid dissolves in a liquid, the volume of the liquid does not change. This is very important point. So pen down this in your notebook. When a solid dissolves in a liquid, the volume of liquid does not change. Now taking other examples regarding physical change, evaporation and boiling of a liquid is also an example of physical change. Evaporation and boiling of a liquid is also an example of physical change, as it involves changing of liquid into vapors and cooling down of vapors again to liquid under condensation process. Students, now we will take the examples of chemical changes. Burning of coal or wood is an example of chemical change. Coal mainly contains carbon which combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, which is a gas. You cannot convert carbon dioxide back into the coal. Hence this change is chemical change. Rusting is also an example of chemical change, as it involves deposition of reddish brown layer over iron objects when they are exposed to air and moisture. I repeat, rusting is also an example of chemical change, as it involves the deposition of reddish brown layer over iron objects when they are exposed to air and moisture. The process of rust formation cannot be reversed back to iron by reversing the condition. It cannot be reversed back. I repeat, cooking of food and digestion are also examples of chemical change, as new substances are formed in cooking and digestion which cannot be reversed back. Continuing the previous PPT, I would like to take some more examples for your convenience. Boiling of an egg is also an example of chemical change. I repeat, boiling of an egg is also an example of chemical change, as when we boil egg, the yellow yolk and the liquid get hardened, which results into hard mass. Fermentation is a process in which a sugar solution changes into alcohol in the presence of enzymes with the production of carbon dioxide. Hence, fermentation is also a chemical change. Respiration and photosynthesis are other examples of chemical change which you have read in previous class. I repeat, respiration and photosynthesis are also examples of chemical change which you have already covered in previous class. Students, next topic is change of mass in a chemical change. The mass of individual substances undergoing a chemical change is altered. I repeat, the mass of individual substances undergoing a chemical change is altered. For example, when carbon is burned in air, the amount of carbon is reduced and finally carbon vanishes. In fact, all the carbon gets converted into carbon dioxide. Hence, point to be noted, the total mass of substances taking part and formed in a chemical change remains the same. I repeat, the total mass of substances taking part and formed in a chemical change remains the same. For example, when carbon is burned in air, the amount of carbon is reduced and finally vanishes to form carbon dioxide, but mass of carbon burned plus oxygen taken from the air is same as the mass of carbon dioxide formed. Students, now we will discuss the differences between physical and chemical change. I have shown a table for your convenience. A physical change is temporary while a chemical change is permanent. I repeat, A physical change is temporary while a chemical change is permanent. A physical change is reversible. A physical change is reversible, but the chemical change is irreversible. No new substances are formed in a physical change, but in a chemical change, new substances are formed. In a physical change, the mass of the substances does not change. In a chemical change, mass of substances undergoing a chemical change is altered. Now the next topic we will discuss is, can physical and chemical changes happen together? Can physical and chemical changes happen together? Answer is yes. Yes, they can happen together. Common example is burning of candle. Following changes takes place when candle is burnt. Wax under wick gets heated and melts. The molten wax flows down and solidifies. Change in state from solid to liquid and again from liquid to solid are physical changes. Now I have shown one figure to show the burning of candle that involves physical as well as chemical change. As you see in the diagram, there is a candle which is burning, and most of you used to light the candle at your birthday. So when the wick gets burned, then what happens? The wax slowly and slowly changes into the liquid form, and liquid solidifies and again changes into the previous form of wax. Now let us discuss about the chemical change. A part of molten wax vaporizes and burns to form new substances. Now what are the new substances? They are carbon dioxide and water vapor. This change is irreversible. Why this change is irreversible? Because you cannot change carbon dioxide and water vapor back into the molten wax. So burning of wax is chemical change. I will explain this slide again for you. A part of molten wax vaporizes and burns to form new substances, that is carbon dioxide and water vapors. This change is irreversible. That means you cannot reverse back this change. So burning of wax is chemical change. Students, now we will take the next topic. Physical and chemical changes involve energy change. Physical and chemical changes involve energy change. Children, you know, a change in energy takes place when a physical or chemical change occurs. Now, how does this change take place? Energy is either taken in means absorbed, or given out. Given out means evolved or emitted by a substance which undergoes a change. By this we mean that heat or light is either absorbed or emitted by a substance during a physical or chemical change. Hence, energy changes usually involve the heat. Now let us recollect our points. When a substance changes its state, that is from the solid to liquid or liquid to solid, energy is involved. I repeat, when a substance changes its state from solid to liquid or liquid to solid, energy is involved. Energy is either taken in, that is absorbed, or given out. Given out means evolved or emitted by the substances undergoing the changes. Students, in this slide, we will take the classification of two types of changes depending upon energy change. Depending on energy changes, we can categorize the changes into two types. What are they? First is exothermic change and second is endothermic change. Now, what is the definition? A change in which heat is evolved. A change in which heat is evolved is called exothermic change. I repeat, a change in which heat is evolved. Evolved means emitted out, is called exothermic change. For example, burning of coal. You have seen when we burn the coal, heat is being produced, heat is being evolved, and some light is also being evolved. So hence burning of coal is an exothermic change. Now what is the definition of endothermic change? A change in which heat is absorbed. A change in which heat is absorbed is called endothermic change. For example, in photosynthesis, sun heat or sunlight is being absorbed. So photosynthesis is an example of endothermic change. Students, now we will take the examples of energy change in a physical change. You know, energy changes are observed during a change in state. Always remember, whenever there is a change in state, there will be energy change. So, a solid has to be heated in order to melt. In other words, a solid absorbs heat in order to melt. For example, ice, sulfur, iron, etc. absorbs heat. Similarly, a liquid absorbs heat in order to change into vapors. I repeat, this point is very important. A solid has to be heated in order to melt. In other words, a solid absorbs heat in order to melt. For example, ice, sulfur, iron, etc. absorbs heat. Similarly, a liquid, for example water, absorbs heat in order to change into vapors. On being cooled, gases and vapors form liquid. Heat is given out in these processes. On being cooled, gases and vapors form liquid. Heat is given out in these processes. Students, now we will take an activity to show the energy change. Boil water in a kettle. You can see in the diagram, kettle is placed on the right side. Place a bowl of cold water near its spout. You can see clearly the bowl is being kept near to the spout on the left hand side. After some time, you will see water vapor coming out of the spout will condense as it comes in the contact of bowl. After some time, you will find that the water in the bowl has become hot. So why this happen? On being boiled, water changes into water vapor. The water vapor condenses into drops of hot water, and hence heat is being transferred from the kettle to the bowl which is carrying the cold water. So water in the bowl becomes hot. Now students, we will take the example of energy change in a chemical change. All chemical changes involve a change in energy. Note it down, all chemical changes involve a change in energy. For example, burning. When a coal or the wood is burnt, both heat and light are emitted. Burning is an exothermic process. Why it is an exothermic process? Because it involves the evolution of heat and light. So for your convenience, I have shown a diagram of burning matchstick. You see, in everyday use, we are using the matchstick, and when we burn the matchstick, we can clearly see the heat, we can feel the heat and light. So burning of matchstick is an example of exothermic change. Now we will take another example to show the example of energy change in a chemical change, slaking of lime. Quicklime is calcium oxide. Quicklime exothermically reacts with water. The reaction is exothermic as heat is evolved when water is added. With a larger amount of water, a thick white paste of slaked lime is formed. Slaked lime is calcium hydroxide. This process is called slaking of lime. Hence, flaking of lime is also an example of exothermic change. Now students, I will take the last example which is given in our book, that is the photosynthesis. I know all of you know the photosynthesis as you have covered in the class 6. So let us recollect. Photosynthesis in the green plant take place only in the presence of sunlight. Chlorophyll, the green pigment of leaves, absorbs sunlight and helps the plant produce glucose and oxygen from water and carbon dioxide. Therefore, photosynthesis is also a chemical change which involves absorption of sunlight. Hence, this is an endothermic change. Students, now I conclude my presentation by asking few short answer questions. First, what are reversible changes? Second, what are irreversible changes? Third, define physical changes. Fourth, define chemical changes. Fifth, define an exothermic change. Now last, define an endothermic change. Hope you will watch my video again and again and pen down the answers of these questions positively in your copy. Thanks and God bless you all.